Yeah. Please be Zach.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
we
am
are
Zach.
recording.
This is
Zach.
Goddammit Zach, where Skeeter and I have decided we need to outclass somebody who lives in a basement, and we're wearing our ties just to prove that we own ties. He may own ties too, but we don't live in the basement. So, Skeeter Green, how you doing?
Zach, I'm doing wonderfully. And I'm very happy to have our guest this episode, Mr. Steve Marsh.
Hello, I'm glad to be here.
And I'm sorry I made fun of the basement joke, but because he's actually with his daughter and doing the right thing in quarantine and with his whole family, and I had to make fun.
Yeah,
Because I did. I'm bad.
because Zach is a terrible person.
I'm making fun of the guy who invented it.
I've been confessing to people that I'm in my daughter's basement.
Well, at least you know there's always someplace you'll wind up.
Yeah.
I have a ton of questions to ask you.
Okay.
So first of all, first question, and you post this on Facebook pretty frequently. You are LARPing hex crawls. I mean, you're walking the trails and the Appalachian trails. You do all of this stuff out in the forest. Describe what that's like a little bit. I mean, that's not just a day trip. I mean, you are out there.
And for us, indoor dummies. Well, some of us are really dummies in the indoors. What is the Appalachian Trail, and what is it you're doing there?
Okay, the Appalachian Trail runs from Georgia to Maine.
Oh, it's okay.
So it goes from, I forget who lives in Georgia, all the way up to Frank Metzer and Lloyd Metcalf in Maine. And it ends on a mountain called Katahdin. And it starts on Springer Mountain. And it goes up and down a lot. Everybody that maintains part of the trail wants their trail to have extra texture.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And on the good side, people don't get bored, except the one stretch of this trail that doesn't have a lot of texture. It's just pretty.
So that makes you bored. Oh, I get that.
Whereas people on the Pacific Coast Trail, which is graded and actually has a fourth of the vertical up and down of the Appalachian Trail, they get bored because the trail's too nice.
It just seems exhausting.
Oh, you start out walking 8-10 miles a day, and you never get over 25 or 30 miles.
That is a lot of walking.
Yeah,
it's always something different. And
I sometimes walk 8-10 feet myself.
Depends who's chasing you.
Well, that's true.
No, it's great when you post the pictures. It really is like, playing D&D and going overland through the forest, because you're going through the forest.
Do you want to roll the DMG random chart and see what you found the first day you were on your trip? I rolled a 1. Anyway,
so I found the guy from California the first day.
Oh, that's what I would guess too, as a 1. Yeah.
So bandits.
He was in shock because of the amount of vertical up and down the first 6 miles, which is really pretty flat by Appalachian Trail standards. But he just discovered the Appalachian Trail has not only shelters, but every shelter has a privy.
That's nice.
Wow.
And there's roughly a privy every 10 miles on the Appalachian Trail.
Oh, I can make it that far. I'd be dead before I got there.
I mean, it's the forest.
Well, yeah, and not only that, but you can actually get more privacy than like on the Pacific Coast, where they don't have hardly any privies at all.
I believe that.
You get off the trail and not where people can see you.
But you go downtown San Francisco and do it. So anyway.
So how often are the airlift stations to rescue the people who think this is a good idea and realize they are not at all in the shape for this?
Basically, a large percentage of the people drop out in the first 30 miles.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, that'd be me.
Yeah.
In fact, a surprisingly large number of people drop out by the time they get to the start. There's something called the approach trail, and a lot of people walk up to the beginning rather than drive up.
You're out before you start. I like it.
Yeah.
That's like going to college.
It's like dying in character creation.
It's like traveling.
Yeah, it's Traveler. You could die in character creation.
So, Steve, not everybody knows. I mean, probably almost all of our audience knows, but for people who watch this, how did you get involved with role-playing games?
I was sitting down next to Sandy Peterson in this religion class. And he had a looking book. I didn't even know who he was. And I said, can I borrow that?
I think
Actually,
that's an amazing start.
Hey, that beats every story we've heard so far for
Yes.
a start. I was sitting next to Sandy Peterson.
so can I borrow Sandy's book? You know, I didn't even know who Sandy was. And he says, okay, look, this, yeah. So I borrowed Men and Monsters, which is not the easiest book to start D&D with. And I read it and I thought, that's interesting. And then we started playing in a campaign and I started corresponding with Gary Gygax. And
Was it a rules question? That's why you correspond with him?
I can't remember what the first thing was. That or a suggestion. I think I asked him a question. I think I suggested something.
All right. Well, this is a perfect opportunity. I'm going to share my screen here because we have some questions from the audience. And can we see this?
Yes, Sagwin.
There we go.
So that's how you pronounce it?
Sogwin.
Yes.
Sogwin.
Sanguine, but
Okay. It's important to realize that until I started law school, I read words as glyphs. And I didn't actually know how to spell very well.
oh,
And I am extremely phonetic when I see words. So I say them the way they look. So
Well-
I people laugh at the way I pronounce stuff all the time.
Well, I'm learning how to pronounce and how to read things as they're spelled. Now that I'm a retired lawyer, working on spelling and pronunciation since law school, you know.
I've got another one. We've got another one coming up here.
More. We have the expert now, so we're excited.
Yeah.
Middle?
Which
Yeah,
one?
you skipped the middle syllable because I didn't read it. And one of the Dragon magazine articles on them has the proper pronunciation. Because one of the old grognards said, wait a moment, that's not how it's pronounced. It's pronounced Ixitchitl. Yeah, Ixitchitl.
Ixitchitl.
And later editions, they've corrected the spelling so it's pronunciation so it's phonetic.
Ixitchitl. Well,
And
I want you to know hours of my youth were spent trying to see if I could say that correctly, and I would change the way I said it day in, day out for
every time. It never had the same name twice.
And Alan Hammock, who I know you know, it's his fault because four of those goddamn things are in the Ghost Tribe Reminisce.
Troublemaker.
He's a bad man.
Started off as a player character race, philosophers that didn't make it into the rules. And that's why in the original time they show up, they're clerical philosophers. You're going, well, okay. But that was a character class.
That would be great.
That was the character class, and that was the name.
Philosophers, yes.
Philosophers.
I like it.
Oh, well,
that's fantastic.
That's deep, like deep ones. Oh.
Okay. So let's get into this now.
Okay.
Steve Marsh, you've been posting on Facebook recently. You've weighed in on the orcs debate.
Well, orcs often get used in a way that's inappropriate. And I'm not big on, just ransacking, being nasty to people. But a better way to look at orcs, and kind of the way I look at them, is like Vikings. Now, a lot of people don't know is the Vikings was kind of a profession that some Norse people did, and it was often part-time. You'd go Viking for a period. And sometimes you were involved in trade, but, a little bit of loot.
The trade was down, you just took it.
Yeah, they were kind of chaotic neutral. And they rarely, of all things, they rarely attacked fortified sites.
Who would? I mean, it's so much easier. It's like a school. Why would you pass a grade school why attack a fort when you can attack a grade school?
Wow.
Sorry.
Zach went dark.
One of the old jokes was, of course, that the Vikings went raiding because they didn't have wine.
I could see that because they're too far north.
Sour fermented milk.
I too would go Viking.
That would tend to make somebody. So I mean,
Finland would be popular. Yeah, I can see why that
you
would
could consider Viking a verb instead of a name. I'm going to go out Viking.
No, it
But
is though, isn't it? Viking was more of a trade kind of thing. You're a farmer for the summer, and then you go Viking in the fall real quick, and then you have enough to last you through the spring, kind of thing.
I mean, Vikings. What I remember, a lot of the farming was you plant your stuff, and then it sits there.
I don't know anything about farming.
No, I mean, modern farming has a lot of technology,
Right.
and a good farmer is 20th levels in farming these days. But in the old days, that's why they talk about summer when the kings went to war. It's like, what? Well, yeah, because that's when everybody's sitting around, nothing to do. And
Yeah, you got to wait.
so instead of waiting around and trying to do something useful, you'd go out and loot the neighbors.
Which was useful for you, not the neighbors, but
It's
you.
like Harold Hardrada started raiding Denmark every summer because he wanted the Danes to acknowledge him as king, and it never worked out. And so eventually he gave up raiding Denmark and picked England.
Well, Zach is safe living in Arizona. No one is going to raid him because the temperature is too damn hot.
In the summer, we're safe here.
Yeah.
But back to where your Skeeter started from was that the issue came up only because there was a Twitter on Sunday. I mean, I've heard of this before and I've seen it. And something came up on Sunday, and then you responded to it with, well, these are the various parts. You signed D&D creations to various tribes in the English Isles? Is that
kind of? I mean, first off, you need to understand that Gary wasn't that enthusiastic about the Tolkien stuff.
Yeah.
He was big on like light elves and dark elves. And if you've read Paul Anderson's The Broken Sword or Three Hearts and Three Lions.
3 Hearts, 3 Lions is what I know. Yeah.
He liked that a lot. And his alignment system comes from the Law and Chaos and Three Hearts and Three Lions.
Yeah. I am not a fan of the 3 alignment system. I hear this kid gave a suggestion to make the alignment system all 9, and I think that was a master stroke.
What kid was that?
I just felt it made a nice overlay.
Yeah.
And
no, I think there's more than law, neutrality, and chaos.
Wait, you're telling me he's to blame for 9 alignments? No, I'm just kidding. I knew it was true, but that's so awesome.
He was trying to corner the market.
What's funny is
you founded my philosophy of life. Thank you.
Tim Cass tried to get Gary Gygax to expand alignments, and Gary blew him off. And then when I suggested, he listened to me. I never thought that was fair to Tim.
I'm sure Tim didn't think it was fair to Tim either. I know Tim Cass, and I love him to death, but the greatest things in my life always involve him being frustrated. Seeing Tim Cass frustrated really makes my day, and I'm a terrible person because it's true, but it does.
Cass Grage is a thing to behold. If you have never seen it live, it's
so righteous.
Oh,
isn't it? Yeah.
Hey, first time I ever saw it, I'm at a con, and some guy was being mean to my daughter.
Ooh.
And I was more than 20 feet away, which takes me, of course, 2 melee rounds to close. And Tim got to the kid first. And just
wow.
And then for years after that, Rachel used to bring Tim, pastry every con.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
You're in his pastry. That's good of him.
Yeah, she is famous for those. All of the stuff that you guys bring to North Texas is.
Oh, I know. Your frog jam is still famous here. We've bought it from 5 different places trying to replace it, and there's nowhere as good. My wife complains about it each time. But now on the Tim Cass note, before we leave that, I want to tell my favorite Tim story about that is that I was at a table and we were playing, and a guy who was at the other side of the table walked up to Tim halfway through and goes, "I don't think you know the rules."
Yeah. No, that is.
I'm gonna give you 2 options. Did he calmly go, actually, I'm pretty familiar with him, or did he almost flip the table, jump up and scream and say, "Get out of my game! You're fucking forever and the rest of your life, or you go away"? Which one do you think he went with?
I feel like I know this answer.
It was the point.
Yep, it was a sight to behold.
So crazy.
No, anyway, so you amended the 9-point alignment system, and we're talking about how, and he didn't love the Tolkien stuff. I want to go back to he didn't love the Tolkien stuff, but he
really didn't like it, and he felt it was being imposed on him
by fans or by people in the company.
By fans.
By fans.
like chainmail. People wanted to toss Tolkien elements. They could have, Tolkien battles. So he adds, so he adds some stuff. And then D&D, it's like, did you really want to add? Come on, guys, really? Yes. So they include this stuff, right? And
Right.
so and then the other one problem you have with Gary is he's so sardonic sometimes. Okay.
No way.
I don't believe you.
And so sometimes he'll quote someone and he's not agreeing with them. And if you do, he's going to mock you, though not in a way you can tell.
Yeah, I don't know anybody like this at all. Am I pointing to the right person?
Point to me.
Oh, am I pointing to you?
Yes.
Where's Zach?
Right there.
Okay.
He just stepped out of his chair.
Yeah, that's who I'm supposed to be pointing to.
It's like beards on dwarves. Why did Gary do that? He's trying to make the point you should ignore him when he says something stupid. And did anybody get it? No. And he's like, you idiots. He's like, okay. I guess dwarf women do have beards.
I guess if you don't have a dog in the fight, let it win.
Yeah. No, that's interesting to hear that some of it was just, because everybody micro analyzes the game system, especially the older systems. Like, what is the true message we're supposed to have for D&D now? And it seems like people gloss over the fact that it's a game. Do what you want so it's enjoyable for you and your group.
Have you ever read Stephen Brust's Vlad Telltale series?
I've not.
Okay, that's a write-up of his D&D campaign.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
I didn't know.
What's really fun is the complexity of the world grows chronologically, not in the order of books being written.
Oh.
So if he jumps back in time, his world is simpler. So his elves are lizard men who live forever. And they don't engage in psionics because who cares? His dwarves make life-draining swords.
Yeah.
But and Gary expected everybody to rework the rules at least that much.
I can see that.
And
I never thought about that until you said that right now.
And for the longest time, they didn't think anybody would buy a module.
Yeah, Judges Guild. It wasn't Judges Guild's modules the first one.
Yes, Judges Guild started doing it. They're like, who's going to buy that?
After Pierre Karastan did it once, right, or Vampire Queen, and then Judges Guild did it, and they actually sold some.
Oh, it sold boatload.
Yeah, no.
The thing is, you get to like the Chicago group, which is where a bunch of the stuff in Greyhawk comes from, including all the cursed weapons and armor. And they're playing 5 to 7 days a week. And they're just chewing through material. Whereas Gary's playing once or twice a month.
Right.
Yeah.
So one of Gary's games is going to take you years to get to 9th level.
But for them, it takes them 2 months.
Yeah. They're going to get in a week what Gary's campaign got in a year, in terms of how many hours played sometimes.
And so creating the content, although I'm sure that was secondary from, hey, look, they're making money. that's how we would look at it, Frog God. But by creating the content, was everybody excited to do that? Or were they doing it because they were trying to make sure they stayed relevant? Or was there...
Oh, first off, they got some beautiful submissions. There was a guy whose art project was a module. He just illustrated a module without content, but it was beautiful.
Wow.
And they had some other material like that, and everybody's like, "Yeah, this is great." And like when I was there, the summer I worked at TSR, they were playtesting against the Giants.
Never heard of it. No.
In proper playtest form, the guy running the playtest has to provide the snacks and the sodas. So
you got to balance everything.
Yeah, you show up, the DM provides the game and the snacks, and all you have to do is play.
All right, Zach, that's your job from now on.
Finally, I have a job. I've been waiting forever.
Yeah.
So were you in that play test?
An episode or two.
And so, so you're one of the first people to play against the Giants.
I guess I only got to play part of it,
If I got to play in part of it early on, that's all I could put it on my tombstone. I'm done. I'm like, I have accomplished my life's goal. Though I guess the time it didn't seem as relevant.
Yeah, that's a question I was going to ask you. When you were there doing this and they were building the game, did you guys feel like you had something, or was it just like, okay, we're going to put out a game, it'll be fun?
Oh, we were having fun. It was a lot of fun. I got asked to write the expert set, and so I just actually wrote the rules, and then Zeb had to edit them. And he had to edit them to fit the format of the basic set.
Oh, yeah.
On a short deadline without word processing equipment. Quite frankly.
So I'm gonna get my brush out here and like brush off the dust here and ask a question about archaeology here. No, but at what point did you realize that you're working on something that was a cultural phenomenon, or had worked on something that was a cultural phenomenon, as opposed to just another version of Battleship?
Oh, it was always more than Battleship.
But did you realize that this is going to go out to a lot more people than? When did it hit a point where you're like, this really is something more than a few nerds here in Midwest?
The sales were doubling or tripling every year.
Yeah.
One of TSR's biggest problems is they were on 30 days with suppliers and 60 days with most retailers.
Ooh.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they couldn't get credit.
Because you're making a game about elves and no one understood why you would deserve money for that.
Well, and what do you have for security?
Nothing.
Right.
Gary's house. So.
And that's why Gary ended up having to bring partners in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why the Random House deal was such an important thing, because Random House started publishing the books.
Can you explain that a little bit of the Random House deal? Because I only know the very basic. How did that start, and what was that exactly?
Gary and Lawrence Schick went off and talked to Random House, and Random House agreed to publish, like they publish a book. And suddenly they had an outside publisher who's also selling, who's also covering all the inventory expense.
Bingo. And that's, I can see.
Yeah, that would be huge, especially at the beginning.
From 600,000 to like 1.2 million.
Yeah, the boom.
And then like 3 million the next year.
This is dollars or units? Give me my bad. Yeah.
Dollars.
Okay. And adjusted. I want to make sure that's clear. That's a lot of money.
Well, yeah, that's in,
That was TSR's revenue.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's in the late 70s, isn't it? Mid 70s?
1980.
Was that 80?
Right about 1980. Okay.
Yeah, because that's a lot of money then.
Yeah, and they did have an inventory buyback if somehow Random House got too much inventory, and that's what collapsed Lorraine.
Yeah, I knew that.
And I think she didn't understand that there was actual value in parts of the product.
How so?
Well, she thought she could sell the Buck Rogers stuff just as well as the D&D stuff.
Right.
And that fans would just buy it because it came from TSR.
That Buck Rogers right there? That's just his handy sitting next to my desk. I don't know why that is.
Anyway, and so she thought they would buy stuff without regard to what it was.
So if you built it, they would come.
Yeah, because fans didn't really care about anything, but it was just stuff from TSR.
I can see that.
And the Blooms thought we're in the hobby business, so obviously we ought to be going into other parts of the hobby business, like leatherworking. And
well, I never have a wood burning set. That's the one thing I'm desiring to have on my own for my collection. Because I collect the esoteric BS. I love it. And the wood burning set's really high on my list. I just got the Shrinky Dinks. I mean, I'm there, man.
You're going to be the first person I've ever met who wanted the wood burning set.
Well, No, I admit it's
Oh,
ironic.
I bet not. I bet there's some people
I know
that
people.
desperately want that.
I know people who would fight me in an arena for one of those.
I would do it just cause.
The two of you are pretty stout. I'm not sure I want to get in an arena with you.
Oh,
I'm not sure.
well,
we get arena
you've got your own martial arts background.
Yeah,
that's very impressive. So I don't
Yeah.
think we want to get in
That
there with
sounded
you.
that sounded like what I would like to call a trick, Skeeter Green.
Yes.
You want to get us into it? Think we're going to fight an older guy that like, oh, I don't want to get you stout fellas.
Yeah.
Take us, sweep the leg.
Yeah, I feel like that was an attempt to dupe us both.
Yeah, and we fell for it.
We did.
we're ready. We'll take this dude out. Yeah.
Yeah. No, we're
not going to fight the guy who made
we're not smart that way.
Swaggin. So,
yeah.
Well, I don't have a wood burning set, so I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, you just told us there was one. We wouldn't have to actually be one. Come on. No, you're right. The hobby stuff, like there was a needlepoint set at some point too, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I think there was everything you could possibly come up with. I mean, there was a paint by numbers set.
Some people didn't understand that yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Some people didn't get the idea that D&D wasn't part of the general hobby, like Hobby Lobby market. It was a separate entity.
Yeah. I mean,
when I bought stuff, you weren't able to get it in bookstores easily yet, but you could buy it at the same store that sold pet supplies.
Yeah.
They had a little shelf next to like your birdcage liner. They had Avalon Hill games, Victory Game stuff, some TSR stuff, and always 9 different books of not all 9, just random ones of Traveler. That was the shelf I remember.
No, we had model stores in my town, and there would be box sets next to like the Rydell models, just everything stacked up, and you wouldn't even know it was a game. I mean, to this day, I've been back to this model store, which still exists. I don't know how.
That's crazy. I didn't think there were any of those left.
But yeah, last time I was there was an old box set of something. I don't even remember what it was, but it was still just stacked in with the models, like they're trying to build a tower out of these boxes.
Didn't buy it. You're not my friend.
Yeah.
You're not my friend. Okay. Anyway, so Steve, so as you worked on this stuff, what are you most proud of the stuff that's in the game itself, right? That from the early days.
I don't know. The underwater encounters were kind of fun. I'm glad those are stuck.
Those have made it all the way from when you did it to now. I mean, that has been an enduring piece of the hobby.
One of our largest Kickstarters at Frog God just had to do all about underwater adventures that Alex Cameron wrote. So that's been enduring. That really has some legs. You really have a chance of being a designer, sir.
It's got fins, Zach. It's water.
All right, stand corrected.
But you did a lot of planar ideas. Yes. Was that because you weren't kind of on the Tolkien storyline? You weren't satisfied with what was going on here and wanted more fantastical stuff? Or did it
thing I was interested in.
Okay.
There's no big meta on it. I enjoy Tolkien. In fact, when I was in 5th grade, my 5th grade teacher blackmailed me into studying by parsing out Tolkien's novels.
You scoundrel.
And I used to have a first printing paperback.
And you don't now.
It disintegrated through overuse.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, it happens. I used to have one of the Ace editions, the pirate editions, cool. And which also disintegrated. Now it's probably worth a fortune because I've never seen one in 30 years. But you used to be able to get them for a dime at the library, right?
Yeah. You know the Ace story, don't you?
Yeah, I do. About how they ripped him off like big time.
They didn't intend to.
No, they didn't? I didn't know that.
Ace was, what they were doing is they were revitalizing old titles in fantasy they felt needed to be saved.
Like the Conan stuff or like that era?
The Blue Stone. What else? There was a series that Ace did.
Okay.
And Tolkien's copyright had expired years and years ago because he'd gotten a 17-year copyright and didn't, or no, it wasn't 17. Anyway, he got a copyright and didn't renew it. And they thought he was dead.
Oh, the Hobbit, like, for instance.
Oh, geez.
Yep.
And they thought this needs to be revived. And so they formatted and shipped it. And someone at Ballantine got wind of it and managed to find out Tolkien was alive, contact Tolkien, and Ballantine rushed to printing.
And
I'm not dead yet.
Well, and so what happens is the Ace books hit the bookstores on day 1. The Ballantine stuff gets there on day 2. And that's when Ace finds out Tolkien is alive.
Oh,
Now, Ace had far better author relationships and policies, and they were terribly embarrassed, and so they pulled everything. Now, if you're
Valentine
running a
did them the service of putting the back of every one of the paperbacks. Ace people are basically assholes.
so they didn't name Ace; they just said those.
But it was, you knew who it was, and they called him out, and just, yeah, nice. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
But what that did is it turbocharged the launch, because every bookstore briefly had 2 sets, and then
oh,
they
I
just
bet.
had one, and it generated attention, and it got Tolkien a good launch.
Well,
And
and
it's
I have to imagine there was some publicity on a small scale because nothing is
a whole
like,
bunch of word of mouth in bookstores. Suddenly,
right.
everybody knows Tolkien's the man. Ace and Ballantine were fighting over him. They don't know the details, but it's enough to cause a big stir.
Well, I got to get this story.
Well, and I got to sell this book. This book has got to be hot.
Yeah.
And I think that Tolkien's one of my favorite things in the world, but wasn't the fact that it was a trilogy a hard sell to the publishers originally? Because
Not after the Ace debacle.
Oh,
yeah,
I
that's what I
bet.
mean.
Yeah.
I think all of a sudden, like, trilogies
More
became a lot
books.
more popular.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but eventually trilogies became popular because this one sold so well.
Yeah, you could. Weiss and Hickman, those people, they should be grateful they could sell 9 trilogies because that was an expected form, though, right? Is that, you think
Yes,
that did help?
and Tolkien didn't actually write a trilogy. He
No, he
wrote
wrote one novel. Yeah.
and now broken into books.
Yeah.
And the book
Right.
breaks are what he intended.
Yeah.
They made it into a trilogy because that fit the page count.
Yeah, I read that. I actually read the argument about that in his letters book.
And they tossed all the lore stuff in the back and the maps to have something original that the copyright would stick to.
Fancy. That's
cool.
some strategery right there.
Now, does that mean Ents are part of the lapse copyright and Balrogs and
Hobbits.
yes, and does that mean that TSR just didn't want to fight with them?
4th print D&D box set. The 5th print.
Wow.
No more. I don't have one. Bill Webb has one, and he's got one of the box sets that has Hobbits and Ents, and I do not. So when he goes missing, and you guys are like, "What happened to Bill?" Just want you to know that you'll be able to find his box set. I'll be hiding it at Skeeter Green's house.
Look, you can't lay that on me.
I won't. Well, I might, but
yeah, you totally will.
No, but so were you surprised the first time something you worked on like sold at auction as a collectible for thousands of dollars?
Yeah, what happened is I had all this stuff I'd saved, and I was about to throw it out. When War Dog contacted me,
We both just had seizures at the same time.
about Dragon's Foot, so I was going to send it all to him. And he said, wait a moment, you ought to send it to Paul and have him auction it. So I said, fine. So I sent it to Paul, and he auctioned it.
Wow.
And Paul got a lot of grief that he didn't deserve.
No, Paul doesn't deserve a grief. I like Paul a great deal.
And because people were saying, well, gee, you could have arranged this differently. Or mostly there were several collectors that were really upset they didn't know how valuable part of it was.
Yeah. But
there was one item that sold for $70 that later bidding got up to over $5,000 before the guy broke it to him. That he collected Ferraris. He'd framed it. It was in his entranceway. And he wasn't going to sell it to them for the kind of money they could come up with.
Ouch. That's savage.
And one of the other guys was really upset because if only Paul had told him, he could have scooped it. Like, really, dude?
I hang in those circles.
That.
I know these guys pretty well. I don't bid with them. I don't collect like them. I don't even pretend to. But knowing all these guys, and I won't name any names because we all know the names amongst ourselves, but
Yeah.
I can totally see that. I have seen the most childish wars of my life over this stuff.
Oh, and the guy that got it for cheap, he contacted me because he felt guilty about paying so little.
Did
And
he
he
give
was
you more
asking me, do I want more money? I said, yeah, you can send me $5.
That's the best response ever. I'll take $1.
Yeah.
$5 from the Great White North album. They paid the guitarist $5.
Oh man.
But when I if I said nothing, when I said nothing, he didn't go away. When I told him $5, he's like, it calmed him down. I didn't think the $5 was.
Oh man. No, that's nice. And I think the fact that Paul, you're going to toss it. And I think it happened to a lot of you guys who worked on the early stuff. You never saw it as being what it became. Yeah.
Well, I had all my notes. The best part was the rough draft of the planes. The originals went up in a house fire at Mike Gunderloy's.
Oh no.
And so the copy that was sold at the auction was the only there was an original and a copy, and that copy was all there was.
Wow.
I know who that was who bought it. Anyway, but we won't say. Anyway, so one thing I want to ask then is that, did you know when you were like schluffing out brown boxes out that summer, did you know they'd be worth $20,000 each?
No. Oh.
It was probably worth more than the house you were standing in at the time you were schluffing them out.
Yeah, that's now. I mean, in a couple of years, they're going to be worth twice that just because.
Everybody will have the story. I had a chance to buy one for $1,500, and I was worried my wife would have killed me, and she would have. But if I had one now, she would have raised me from the dead so I could sell it. So
yeah, yeah. So she could give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
I had a chance to pick up one for $20.
Uh-huh.
And to a guy in a game store, I gave him Paul Stormberg's contact.
Yeah,
I said, "Guy, I'd be glad to buy that from you, but you really, ought to talk to Paul."
You'll be able to pay your rent all year.
Yeah.
Talk to Paul here. So you saw one in a game store that's like new-ish, just sitting on a shelf?
No, a guy had one that he picked up in his garage.
Oh, of course.
His garage out had one from when he was younger and was looking to sell it. And I was like, dude, I'd be glad to buy that. And I got $20 on me, but you know what? It's worth more.
It's worth a lot more. Yeah, that's good. That's good of you. And I like to think I'd do the same thing.
I will tell you right now, I would not do the same thing.
That's because you don't fit on the alignment chart where you should be. And this man designed the alignment chart, right? So, I do have a question for you, though. I have a question about when you first saw things on like television and movies that got big with fantasy, and you could probably link it to something you worked on. Like, at what point do you think it's going to stop you, whatever you did then, all the influences kind of had for the alignments, especially? Like, there are young people who were born 45 years after you did this that actually will go and they go, "Okay, I'm chaotic neutral." You did that. That's going to go on forever. Like, at what point do you think that you'll quit expanding? Any idea? You ever think of you ever see that like a chaotic neutral meme and go,
Yeah. But fads and cultural stuff, some of it lasts a long time. Like, claiming the younger generation is worthless. That's been going on for a long time.
Yeah.
The fight between beer and wine drinkers has been going on since Acadia. Other stuff doesn't last so long.
Well, armor class has been going on for 40 years, so I was
Thaco.
I picked up in a Learns obscure excursions at Mike Badalotto's house, which is the most organized house in America. And
right.
I picked up in Learns excursions like 1978 or something, or 1979. And they're like the same argument about Thaco, all right? It's been going on, not Thaco, that was descending and ascending armor class. I could still go Dragon's Foot for a post that's made I went and checked 3 days before I read that. There was still that same argument.
Oh, yeah.
Class wars never ended.
No, the armor class wars, single
Skills.
saving throw, skills in the game, addition wars.
Think of all the casualties in the nerd wars that Steve has caused.
I know, man.
Saving throws, I'm not responsible for. That comes out of chainmail. And part of saving throws was to try and create a rock, paper, scissors effect.
Yeah.
For example, a white saves against a wraith better than a wraith saves against a white.
Gotcha.
Wraith is the bigger, you know.
Yeah. It gives you the. I played chainmail.
And so they were trying something, and then of course chainmail lapsed into D&D because part of it was Arneson never quit fiddling with rules.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Well, I was in the Bronstein game that Dave Weasley did. They talked about how that was started, and you could see it in its seed, but you know, it would have. People always talk about who influenced it more, but I'm going to tell you right now, my opinion is, if Gary Gygax hadn't have got there and commercially decided this is something we can do, it would have. Those guys would still be playing it in the basement in Minneapolis. They'd be playing Brownstein games, and it'd be awesome. But that would be just them. It got spread to the world because of the commercial value of it.
See, there were some PBMs that were similar to those games. You know, you read John Peterson's Playing with the World, and he's going over all these games and all these things that are going on, and none of them are easily replicated.
Yeah. Okay.
When you read the original rules, you say that's easily replicated.
I wasn't going to say that.
Yeah. Reading the 3 little original books, it's like, okay.
Combat systems.
Yeah.
But you know, it's easier than what they had.
Yeah. What?
Oh, I can imagine.
When I came back into the hobby in 2012, I made a point. I bought the 3 brown books and out of a white box, and I read them, and it was a slog. And then I got Greyhawk. I'm like, please put this to page that. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Yeah. But you know what? I'm glad I did, because it really shows you, one, a good idea can keep going, especially when enough people believe in it. I mean, because it's only, how many years were 6? No, I mean, not 3 years from the brown book to the player's handbook, right? 3 or 4.
Yeah.
I mean, the difference is immense, and the player's handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide are two of the finest pieces of literature I've ever bought.
The player's handbook was designed to actually have a single set of rules.
Yeah.
And to be played as written rather than to be a basis you're going to adjust from.
Yeah. And I agree with that. And Tim talked about that a little bit about D&D. And those are the rules that I played as a kid. So I mean, I'm obviously biased about the tramp painting is my favorite. You know, those are all something I remember distinctly. But I think that I can see, like, the people who right before me, who the Holmes box set was theirs and the brown books, they have a little bit of a different take. But overall, I think that even the AD&D players, we were saying we could make this our own, because some of the rules are just too damn hard to figure out. I'm sorry, but weapon speed was too damn hard to figure out. And so I think that we still were able to do that with the rules that were designed to be played one way. So
I think that's part of the elegance of the game, is that if you take the initiative, you can take the parts of it that you enjoy and just don't use the stuff that you don't. And that's one of the things that gets me wound up on these conversations and social media and stuff. People like saying, oh, you know, weapon speed factor is terrible, or I don't like this initiative system. It's like, change it. Yeah. It's a game. It's not like some set in stone item. It's one of them.
We didn't tinker with other games. That's the thing about D&D that I remember distinctly, that we played lots of games, and a lot of them were confusing to us, these board games or whatever, they were more popular. But something about D&D said, if this isn't working, we're going to make it work. Either we loved it so much we want it to work, or we just, for some reason, it had the feeling. It spelled it out there, but I mean, we also, you really felt you felt you could make it your own without feeling like you're breaking it. You know what I'm saying? And that was what the genius of it seemed.
That was a big problem that Empire of the Petal Throne had. No, it had 2 problems. 3 actually. One, they agreed to pay somebody a commission for bringing it to them. Yeah. So every box of Empire of the Petal Throne had a built-in surcharge that got paid to this guy who brought it in. 2, they agreed to have really some premium things like the map.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it was much more expensive to print.
Yep.
And then 3, people didn't feel like they were playing it right.
You have so much buy-in. You have to really understand M.R. Barker's world. And,
Yeah.
and it's a beautiful world. And it's wonderfully done. And watching a game of 5 people playing, a GM and 4 players, and they all know the world, it's great, right? But if you don't know what's the world, I mean, it's just you're lost, which is cool,
It's
but not the same.
it's like a game of inside jokes. I mean, it's entertaining and you can be like, okay, but to really get what's going on, you have to be immersed in that.
Yeah.
And I think that's why some settings are hard sells. And I think that, which is why D&D is successful, because we all kind of have a similar Tolkien. Don't tell Gary, but to Tolkien, if Tolkien is something.
It helped the Tolkien stuff.
Yeah, I did, because we had a kind of a shared conception of Western fantasy, plus castles and all those things.
And it's generic Western fantasy.
Yeah,
It's not
exactly.
even really
King Arthur
specific.
stuff and all that stuff together made it easier. Whereas once you move to other settings that aren't as familiar, like Gangbusters looks like it's a lot of fun, but I don't know almost anything about 1930s mafia stuff, right? I know a little bit. I watched The Godfather, but it wasn't enough, right? And I think that's the same is true with like Ringworld or Dune. The one I want to see most done is the Dune books. But you know what? Unless you read a lot of Dune, that's not going to be any fun for anybody easily.
Well, not only that, but the dungeon setting idea allowed anybody to set up and have players go
Right.
do something.
Exactly.
Now, is that my favorite way to run a campaign? No. And you can see the stuff I've written. You don't have that kind
I've
of.
seen your stuff you've written. It's great. It's great. And it's different. And what I love about it is the planar stuff that you do is really brings in the fantastical in a way that makes players see it and accept it in a way that they don't often other ways. And that's like the Shattered North stuff. And I find that alone makes a genius of the base we start from, because you can easily add that to my Arthurian legend and you bounce right to it without having to look, hey, wait a minute. Whereas you can't do that between Gangbusters and Top Secret very easily. I don't think. Makes sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Nothing against Merle.
No, but it's just a matter of transition, how much players need to know.
Yeah, exactly.
And ideally in the planar stuff, players don't need to know anything.
And that's where I think.
Right. It's supposed to be new and different.
And strange.
Yeah.
Things don't work like they're supposed to, so you can make your fireball spell turn into something really that not very useful or way more useful than you want very easily by just attaching whatever mechanic you want to make your world different as a GM for that experience, and you move on another plane. None of that matters anymore. So you're using that to change the rules as you go tell the story you want to tell. That in the end is like it's a multiverse thing that I think is fantastically done. And I love the fact that the alignments have planes in the first edition AD&D, and you could use those stories to explain why certain otherworldly things happen in a prime material one.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's good stuff.
I spent so much time looking in the back of the player's handbook trying to figure out, okay, so if space is the astral plane, where are all the planes? When I would look up in the sky, and it took me years to go, you're stupid. What are you doing? These are not real.
But I do have a question for you, though. When you talk about the planes, you talk about alignments. I know that you've been religious, man, your whole life. But how much did the actual moral? There are so many good moral stories to tell using the framework of a game, like the Beatitudes and all kinds of other ones. How much did you find that when you working with other people or playing with other groups, you could tell stories that in a way that haven't been told for years as moral tales that you can actually help people understand better because it's a new way to expose them? Is that something you've seen? Because Tracy Hickman talked about that a lot.
It depends if that's what the players want.
Okay.
Now I got to tell you my favorite funny story about alignments in a game. I played with these guys in a game run by Kevin Slimak, and they wanted to play evil characters. Okay. So they get ambushed by owlbears. They kill the owlbears. The owlbears turn out to have a treasure, which has the owner's name on it. So, of course, they trundle over to the owner and give it to him. And the owner wants to know what they want for it. Well, obviously nothing. It's his stuff, right? these guys were really lawful good, to the point where even when they played evil characters, they were lawful
Like a
good.
suburban kid who like decides his NWA is speaks to him.
Yeah. Wu-Tang.
Wu-Tang.
So
No, that's cool though.
yeah, because they're they're just a bunch of evil line characters acting very lawful good.
Well, because they couldn't get that far out of character, I guess I would say. Because that's a problem I have. That not a problem, but I noticed about myself. I can't play evil line characters like even in video games because I have a really strange like sense of even doing this as a fun alternative isn't fun to me. It's not fun to me to randomly slaughter people in a video game. I know, Skeeter, I'm sorry.
No,
But in a video game, because it feels like you just get, I don't know, it's unsettling. And I think that a lot of people who want to play evil campaigns in the Book of Vile Darkness, that's a posturing. I think a lot of people do actually bring more to their personal core to characters than they seem to sometimes.
Did you ever play Privateer?
I have it. I have not played it.
Yeah, I played through the whole thing without any kills of militia or Federation ships on it.
wow.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Well, I feel like I have to defend myself now that Zach has made this all about me and killing. No, I read about and hear stories about people playing, these just heinous groups, and
Yeah.
I don't get it. I mean, I may break the rules or break the law when I'm playing D&D, but I'm not out just murder, rape, and pillage. I mean, if that's what you're doing with your buddies for fun, you might be a sociopath.
Yeah,
It never appealed to me.
I've never been in a game or seen a game like that. I hear about them a lot, but I've never.
I played in a game when I was younger where everybody was evil and everybody tried to do something evil.
Never did.
And they had very specific thoughts on what evil was. And it didn't last long for me.
Yeah.
That was not entertaining, and that is not fun.
If it was, you wouldn't be wearing a tie today.
If I wanted to see and be evil, I would watch more of the news. I mean, the real world is terrible.
Oh, it is terrible. Oh.
I don't want my D&D game to be the real world. And the reason I wanted to say this is it ties back into the whole orc argument right now. I don't get that deep into the backstory of monsters. I am not into their racial or activist goals. They are an opponent and an enemy. I mean, I don't put real world values on these things to try to subjugate them or kill them or take their stuff.
I don't either, but also I don't oppose people who do in their games.
Yeah, if somebody wants to do that and that's okay with your group, that's fine. Do that. The only time I get to play now, except for the rare online game, is I play live at conventions. And let me tell you, that shit doesn't fly at conventions.
Yeah.
I want, if people have decided they want to spend their 4 hours with me at a convention, I don't want somebody to be uncomfortable in a way that's not game related. Like if it's Call of Cthulhu, you're going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to make this super weird.
Hey, he knows Sandy Pearson. He knows that's true.
But yeah. if we're playing D&D, I don't want somebody sitting next to somebody else that makes them uncomfortable. I mean, that just doesn't seem like it's even in the realm of what should be going on.
Must be though.
Yeah, I just don't get it. And we'll use Rachel specifically. I would not want to be running a game or playing in a game where she was there and uncomfortable with the other people. And I know that has happened at conventions. she, you know, I've heard some of the stories that she didn't appreciate. I don't even remember what it was, but yeah, it's like, why? What's the point?
Yeah.
Well, they're bad actors.
If there's a backstory that makes people upset or that hurts people, then get rid of it.
Right. I mean, you can have the generic, oh, the evil baron has kidnapped the princess. You must go rescue her. That's fine motivation. That is vanilla enough that it's not super offensive. We don't have to get into what is the baron doing to the princess and what is all of this horrible, heinous, Law and Order SVU episode that's going on in the background. I don't need that.
Yeah.
I mean, point me in a direction. I will take my dwarf fighter and I will kill something. That's it.
It doesn't change the gameplay.
Yeah. It's
which makes it
an unnecessary flavor enhancement that is going to make me have an upset tummy, and then I'm going to get mad.
We don't need that. I have a question for you, Steve, because I don't think a lot of people know how many other game systems have you worked on professionally?
Oh, I had some credits in RuneQuest and in HeroQuest and in Super World. And
really?
And Call of Cthulhu.
You're the only one I know who's worked on Super World.
And I play tested Stormbringer, and they changed the rules because, well, a lot of things got the rules changed. I used to naturally just kind of find seams in the rules without really thinking about it. It would just happen. And
wow, you should have become a lawyer.
I'm sorry.
I'm
trying
24 cases a year by doing that.
Yeah.
I in Fantasy Hero I had credits. I had credits in lots of stuff.
Did you do some stuff in Thieves World?
Oh yeah, I did one of the adaptations in Thieves World. I was mildly annoyed. I'm the only person that did introductions to characters and descriptions. And they realized, hey, we need that. And so they cut that out of my writing. Slapped it into the introduction to the characters. Didn't let me edit mine so that it was clean. They're just chopped. And one, I didn't get paid for the words used in the introduction because it wasn't my section. And then two, my stuff looked really cheap. Well, it didn't look very good because it was chopped.
You signed a copy of that for me and told me that story the first time I heard it. And I was like, I'm sorry I asked you to sign this.
Yeah, and I had a nice little, blip from Gary Gygax, which was kind. A number of people tend to backdate me. So Gary backdates me to 73 and sometimes to 72 when I actually got started in 74. And Greg Stafford used to do the same thing.
So that you were appeared before you actually appeared?
Yes, that I was involved in the games before I was.
You had some serious influence for that one, man.
That's fantastic.
And Chaosium even has a Steve Marsh file, which is kind of fun.
Okay, you have to explain that because there's zero way I'm letting that go. What is in this?
Yeah, is that your permanent record?
I used to correspond with Greg Stafford about HeroQuest. And what I wrote is the biggest body of writing on the subject that they had at headquarters. And then I did some adventures that never got published, but like one of the characters turned into Greg's favorite player character, for example, and stuff like that.
That's awesome. I never got to meet Greg Stafford, and I'm really sorry about it because I admire so much of his stuff.
He was a nice guy, and when he sobered up, it made a huge difference to Chaosium because Lorantha quit moving.
Yeah. So, do you get to go to a lot of conventions? I've only ever seen you at North Texas that I think.
The only other convention I've been to recently, I went to, I think, a Dragon Con to meet up.
Oh, my Lord. You went to Dragon Con?
when Gary was a guest of honor.
Oh,
Uh, my wife and I drove. It was in Fort Worth, whatever it was, and my wife
okay,
and I
that's another one I'm thinking of.
went out to dinner with him. And I've been to AppleCon.
Oh, nice.
We know Lloyd. We
I
love
was
Lloyd.
on the
We're not going to give that guy any press. Forget it.
No press to them.
No,
he's a bad seed. He's a bad Johnny Appleseed. No, he's a good Lloyd.
The fact that he decided up in Maine that he was just going to have a game convention, kudos to him.
He had a float. He had a parade float that said AppleCon on it. I thought that was the almost most touching thing ever.
Yeah.
Lloyd and I got started
insane.
Together. When I did my very first box set, I met Lloyd. He did all the art for Whisper and Venom. He did such a wonderful job, and he's such a great guy. I'm a big Lloyd Metcalf fan. So I owe him. So you did all the stuff for Chaosium, and you did stuff for TSR. Anybody else that's early on?
Oh, I did some stuff for Champions Hero Game, their fantasy game.
Oh, that one went hard.
I had some credits in that. I've got some miscellaneous credits here and there. I didn't keep track of stuff like I should have.
You find a book once in a while, someone hands you, you're like, oh, yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I did that.
No way.
So is there something, I mean, do you get the itch anymore that you want to write or develop something or just get back in?
No, I saw a giant manuscript like this.
I have a reason I'm asking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I very much, I'm one of those people who will write for feedback. And so if I get feedback and people are interested in it, I'll do more. Of all things, somebody re-released something I did, Jorthan's Rescue, and it became the #2 community seller and drive-through RPG con for a while.
There you go.
And then there's, dang nabbit, there's something else that's been released. I forgot.
You used the word dab nabbit. I'm so excited. Skeeter, you need to learn from this man. This man should be your
I follow a lot of Steve's posts on Facebook. I actually you posted something a couple of weeks ago or something that was to your arbitration site. And
the link to my website.
Yeah, I followed that and went down a rabbit hole on your site just reading stuff. And I was like, this is all law stuff, but it was very interesting the way it was presented. It was accessible. Yeah.
Exactly.
No, and that's, Zach mentioned briefly the religious side of things. You post a lot of stuff that I click through and start reading and get captured reading a ton of what you post because the way you present things is accessible, and it's not like it's more here's some information, take what you want, more than you need to follow this idea.
Yours was the first site I went to that was one of the for the founding guys, with the TSR. Your personal website was one of the first ones I went to, and I found it to be very, very enlightening and touching. And I thought that's the first time I thought that, there's a lot of depth here in the founding of the game than just we like elves. And it was a big deal to me. It was a big deal when I started doing a designer and I made Whisper and Venom. I wanted to make it have the kind of depth that I saw like on your webpage. You talked about your family, you talked about your church, and you talked about things that mattered to you in a way that was not preachy and it was not overbearing, but it made a big difference in how I approached what I wanted to say. And there are many themes I don't talk about when I made Whisper and Venom that were personal to me that I wanted to explore and do in a way that was sophisticated and deep. And because of what you had written, it made a big difference to me. And I don't know if you know that when people read your personal site about law, that does happen.
I didn't know that. I did know that some of the stuff I've written on grief affects people.
Yeah, no, and that one I'm confident it's true. And there's a lot of things, that was part of it, but there were a lot of things you've written. And so it just was a big deal. And I don't think people give you enough credit for how much work you did that gave depth to the game that may otherwise not have been there. And I think it's a big deal. That's why I would agree with that. Peter said you agreed to do an interview, I was so excited because I could actually tell you that, because the only thing I can say about you that I don't like is you shaved your beard. It's too short. When you had the longer beard, I felt the wizard effect was going on. Only Ed Greenwood had you beat. and it's not right. You need to get back in the fight there with the beard, man.
That's how wizards fight.
Beard length.
I keep my beard trimmed when I'm not hiking.
You shouldn't. But we love the long beard, man. No, honestly, but I do want to thank you because honestly, you were also very kind to me when I did my first book about, you were encouraging and you said some stuff that was meant a lot to me because I cared so much for what you had written. So I appreciate you being available to people who do make games currently 45 years after the fact. And it's a big deal. And I hope people do get to see this. We don't have a huge audience, but we have a pretty, I don't know, interconnected audience of RPG developers, designers, and I think we get more people to watch it. But I hope they get to.
We have some people.
Yeah, we're surprised.
Yeah, we are often surprised.
So,
and I'm hoping that eventually the Plane of Shadow stuff will get out of pre-publication into publication.
Yeah,
I'd like to see it.
Very much want to see that.
Very much.
And,
So I think that we are at the 1 hour mark we're looking for there, Scooter Green. And so
We are.
I do want to say, if there's anything else you want to say, Steve?
Yeah.
No,
Any final thoughts?
Richard had said he was going to be in contact with you guys, and I hope that works out. And I've got more stuff I'd like to do.
Well, we can talk about that right after we say thank you, everybody, for
thank you, everyone,
for watching the show. And I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I like being here because this was a lot of fun. And Skeeter and I, we are taking up a class. He's going to do it. He's going to do it.
Yep.
We
had ties. This will never happen again. I feel confident in that. Kurt Gould, this is your fault that we're wearing ties.
And we blame you.
But we have a pretty silly, ridiculous show, but Zach and I both have a lot of respect for Steve, and the ties are a visual.
It's showing that
interpretation of that, which is
respect them.
in itself stupid and ridiculous. But anyway, thank you, Steve. We appreciate that. Thank you, everybody, for watching the video. Subscribe to the channel. We'll see you later.